B11.5 Human Reproduction. So we're going to carry on talking about hormones. I'm going to look at hormones and puberty to start off with. So during puberty, the reproductive hormones, so estrogen in females and testosterone in males, control development of the secondary sexual characteristics. Now would be a good time to recap the different parts of the female and male reproductive system. So pause the video here and have a recap of the male reproductive system and the female reproductive system. You went through this in year 7, so you should have a rough idea and remember which parts are which and what they do. If not, pause the video now and have a quick look. The primary sexual characteristics are the ones that you're born with, i.e. ovaries in girls and testes in boys. These reproductive organs produce sex hormones and gametes. So the gametes are the sex cells, so sperm and egg, that join together for reproduction. So estrogen is made in the ovaries and testosterone is made in the testes. So the timing of puberty, so the physical changes, remember adolescence is all the physical and mental changes, puberty is just the physical changes, and the order that they and the rate that they change varies, but basic changes are the same for everyone. So we're going to start off by looking at estrogen and puberty in females. So rising estrogen levels trigger the development of the female secondary sexual characteristics between the ages of roughly 8 and 14. So the estrogen is produced in the ovaries. These changes include a growth spurt, growth of hair under arms and pubic hair, the breasts develop, external genitals grow, fats deposited on the hips, buttocks and thighs, the brain changes and matures, mature ova, so ova is plural for the ovum, which are eggs, start to form every month in the ovaries, the uterus grows and menstruation begins, so the period starts. So they're the changes that are caused by estrogen in females. So we're going to look at the menstrual cycle in a little bit more detail, and we've got a whole another topic on it next lesson. So it's 28 days long, and day 1 is when the period starts, and day 12 to 16 is ovulation. So ovulation is when an egg is released. I'm just going to show you a quick diagram. Again, pause it if you'd like to. So this shows the levels of hormones that are released at certain times. But we're going to look at the lining of the uterus to start off with. We've got a time scale on here from 0 days to 28 days. 28 is the end of the cycle. Day 1 is the start of it. So we can see that the lining of the uterus is low because they've just had a period at this point. And at the same time, a new egg is maturing in the ovary. And gradually, as we go through the cycle, the lining of the uterus builds up. And this is to prepare for if an egg is fertilised and implanted even. So we've got estrogen here. We see estrogen levels rise roughly till the middle of the cycle, so roughly day 14, when the ovum is released, and then levels dip again. And we can see that the hormones FSH and LH increase roughly to peak in the middle of the cycle as well. I'm now going to go through and talk about what each of those hormones are. So there are several hormones involved in controlling the menstrual cycle. First we're going to look at is FSH, that's follicle stimulating hormone, and this causes the eggs in the ovary to mature, because in the ovaries there's eggs already there, but they haven't matured enough to be released, so it triggers one gets mature every month, or a couple get mature every month and then released. So causes the eggs in the ovary to mature. The eggs grow surrounded by cells called the follicle. The next one is luteinizing hormone, LH, and this stimulates the release of an egg during ovulation. So that's why in that previous diagram I showed you it peaked around ovulation time, because that's what triggers the egg to be released. Estrogen and progesterone stimulate the build-up and maintenance of the lining of the uterus. Let's have a quick look about fertility in females. So the ovaries of a baby girl contain all the eggs she will ever have. So baby girls are born with all the eggs they'll ever have. After puberty, eggs mature and are released every month for an average of 35 to 40 years, except if she is pregnant. Eventually the supply of eggs runs out and the woman goes through the menopause. After she's gone through the menopause, she can no longer have children. Approaching the menopause, a woman is less fertile and has a higher risk of having a baby with genetic problems. So the older the woman is, the more likely they are to have a baby with genetic problems. And obviously once they've gone through the menopause, they can't have any more children at all. So that women cannot produce children their whole life. Moving on to males, it's slightly less complicated than female. So testosterone and puberty in males. So as levels of testosterone rise, remember they're produced in testes, all kinds of changes are triggered and the male's secondary sexual characteristics develop. Boys usually go into the first stage of puberty slightly later than girls, between the ages of 9 and 15. The main changes include growth spurt, pubic hair, underarm hair and facial hair start to grow, the larynx gets bigger and the voice breaks, external genitalia grow, testes grow and become active and they produce sperm throughout the whole life. So males can reproduce offspring throughout their whole life pretty much. Shoulders and chest broaden as muscles develop and the brain matures.